Good morning to you, wherever you may be in the world today, or afternoon or evening. I've shifted time zones. Alan Clements here from Kula, Maui, Hawaii. Thank you for being in my life. I've made it across the ocean to this remote little island. Blessed am I by the good forces of my dear friend Summer Richardson for your magnificent Dana and your support, and many other people around the world who've offered time and energy and resources to assist me in my transition from Santa Monica, where I've been for nearly a year. Prior to that, for a year in Bali, Burma, Australia, and here out of choice on the island of Maui. So welcome. I'm stepping out with a 3-day in-person as well as virtual gathering. I was going to call it a retreat, but it's not a retreat. Been in retreat for the last year. This is a gathering of energy and people. July 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. We have this magnificent room, a temple with these incredible, let me show you, these incredible tankas and Buddha statues that have been collected, look at this, by the owners of this property. And this is my new hangout. And the irony is that the owner and I went to adjacent high schools, same age, parents both in the military, and we grew up a few miles from each other. How's that? And one of my most beloved friends, my adopted godmother, lived in this very place before she passed on. Synchronicities, alignments, archetypes, riffs and musical chords and harmonies and particles and waves and conditions and narratives. All things seem to intersect, to state the obvious. What we do at that intersection, I would call the Dhamma or the Dharma. And this 3-day gathering, July 2nd, July 3rd, and July 4th, from 10 a.m. until 12 noon here, Hawaiian time, if there is such a thing. And then from 1 to 3 in the afternoon on those 3 days. May I invite you to invite your friends, tune in. Live is better than simply watching without the live interaction. And so I would really like to encourage you to set aside some time. Obviously, you're doing what you're doing, but if you have the time, have the moment, check it out. Dive in, commit to a day, to 2, to 3, whatever you can, and meditate together with us. There'll be instructions, there'll be questions and dialogue. It's the first time in nearly a year and a half over that I've had a live interaction with fellow human beings. Some of you are married, you live together, you have families. I have a family. I have a sangha, I have friendships, I have a daughter, but I live alone. And that's been primarily out of choice and karma and who knows what else that intersects to bring our lives to the place that they are. July 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. If you want to come in person to this spectacular piece of deep nature on the side of this semi-dormant volcano, Haleakala, at about 2,000 feet in altitude. You can oversee the West Maui Mountains and the oceans and the sunset, birds and jacaranda trees, a silence and a beauty. Reach out to Karen, who is organizing. Bless you, thank you, Karen, for organizing all the things needed to coordinate the people on the island or on the islands that want to come and join in by the day. For me, preferably by the whole 3 days, but I leave it up to you. And a little bit of coordination, bring your meal, bring your drink, and abide here in this sanctuary and commune together in meditative, active intimacy and dialogue, and discover and evolve the Dhamma, the Dharma, the good, the true, and the beautiful together. So from my heart to yours, I hope to see you in person. I would love to have you here. I'd love to learn from you, to speak with you, to answer any questions that you might have, to interact, and to discover something new and beautiful in that shared space. And if you can't, a global outreach to talk about the global crisis that we're in. I just obviously traveled from Los Angeles to here in the middle of the Pacific, Hawaii. What a journey. The preparation for that, the amount of documentation, the COVID tests, the Q codes, the scanning, the levels of engagement of the airport personnel. And it just struck me as being in this incredible sanctuary for nearly a year in Santa Monica, communing with the squirrels and the hummingbirds and the roses and the air and the sun, the light, the water, the aloneness, the beauty, you, but really, really rarely going out. And all of a sudden, sounding somewhat like a virginal 6-year-old. But I didn't realize to the extent, not so much sensitive or vulnerable, but there's a deep psychic listening process and feeling process and an ongoing aligning process to something so natural, so rare, so precious in myself. Do you feel that in yourself? Are you listening to yourself? Are you listening to the artistry? I don't mean to be poetic, the artistry of your soul, your own unique expression of the language of your heart. How well do we meditatively tune in, feel, love, tantrify, electrify, sensitize, listen to the voice, the authentic, ongoing, evolutional, authentic voices. It's not just a voice. These narratives that define dignity and having the courage to live creatively and act and communicate our conscience, right? So many demands on time and resources and engagements that narrow, that dull, that kind of create a kind of conditional echo, and you begin to think and feel and evaluate and personalize and dialogue with those whom are near you and away from you in these types of theater shows that really don't, at the end of the day, in the middle of the day, in the morning, at night, in the dream world, serve. What does it mean to serve up the preciousness of being? It's so cliched to me at this point to ask myself, what would I do today if I knew that I would not live by the night? That juxtaposition of mortality to inform and to encourage and to invigorate the unrecognized forces of momentum, of conditioning, that there will be continuity, that there will be the next month, year 2, 5, 10. There'll be the happiness achieved. And I was reading Christopher Hitchens, just jumping along here. The great writer, debater. Many of you know all of his work, and passed away in 2012 with I think cancer that originated in the esophagus at 63 or so years old. And I was reading his book on the plane. I got it, called Mortality. And it's powerful. I could so relate, because it starts with his diagnoses of, oh, you've got what looks to be terminal cancer of the esophagus, and the word metastasized came into the book on about page 7 or 8, and chemotherapy and the loss of hair, and he documented it in the most irreverent, satirical, subtle, poignant, tender, curious way. Talented mind, obviously. And so many things could I relate in his description from diagnoses. Obviously, he's passed on, and it's stating the obvious. We're all passing on. We're all in the flow. We're all waves on the ocean of timelessness and mortality, juxtaposed with we can't live beyond our time. At the same time, we live throughout time in rebirthing and redeathing and waves upon the ocean, forms, and all these Buddha images that are really steeped deeply in the concept of paticca samuppada, the deep causality within the invisibility of consciousness and form that make life lawful, oddly. And within that, there are these identity illusion blips called you and me and animals and birds and devas and deities and Brahmins and, of course, Buddhas and Avalokiteshvara and taras and green taras and black taras and healing taras. All these precious colors that symbolize and keep speaking to life. And it's just fraught with horror, suffering, and death, and it's not the only things on the keyboard of samsara. You can play your musical tunes, if you're so lucky, until the curtain comes down, and all of a sudden Christopher Hitchens, he describes the process of decline till eventually, the book ends in the foreword written by his dear friend of his memorial. And on the one hand, I feel that there is this deep, deep calling because of the various things that have happened medically over the last 3 months. To face that feeling that just won't go away. And at the same time, keep living. Death with keep living. And how I wish I could, I will, I'll try to shake that deeper narrative way down deep in the mid-substratum of being, and even deeper into the oceans of the subconscious. Those narrations of momentum, becoming, living, breathing, wanting, desiring, avoiding, convulsing, birthing, aging, dying, living, flying, decaying, all the variations and 10 million other variations of thought, poems and horrors on what it means to keep living. We're safe today, but Burma was safe yesterday. They celebrated 10 years of coming out of the horror of dictatorship with Aung San Suu Kyi and the elected officials. and arts flourished, and education flourished, and the boys and girls grew long hair and spiked it with blue and red and tattooed and sang and ratted out. X and Z felt and believed in art and music and film and frontiers and travel and hope. And in a second, an ignorant man driven by what looks to be the ignorance of perversity and totalitarianism, we call it loba, mahaloba, extreme greed, denigrated the country, killing the people, putting it into what's been known as the Dark Ages, in a great article today that's so tragic, put out by the Irrawaddy, called The Great Depression of Burma. And within it, the theme of my dear beloved friend and mentor and ally, where I just came from, never give up. The Rocky in all of us, never give up. That feeling that you just can't shake. Do you feel it? I ask myself now in this challenge to keep living and to ward off the narratives of fear and prediction of decline and the Delta Plus variant sweeping every soul in the universe and lockdowns. Don't fear, Alan. Don't fear. Don't predict your own death. Live out front. The adventure has now just begun again and again and again. That feeling that you just can't shake, and I just can't get Nick out of my mind. Thank you, Ja, for sending me his beautiful video. Pushing the sky away. Pushing. Impossible task. You cannot push it away, but you've got to keep on moving on, right? Can't just die in the swirl of depression and the predictability of suffering and dukkha, and it ain't going to work out. You got to make the choice, Alan, to live on. Brave up, dude. Whatever it takes to smile into the presence of the new lover of who, keeping magic and mystery at the forefront of presence, the spontaneity of anything that could happen, and it will, the good, the bad, and the incredibly gorgeous. What vistas do I want to paint this week, this month, God willing? What Tonkas do I want to live into? What Tara do I want to meet? Who is she? Where is he? July 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. Let's get down and create some Dharma artistry. Every artist in the world has to know. They know the courage it takes to live as an artist, to get out there on a performance stage and burn it down every night, to do what you've got to do, to sing your song as if it's the only night in the world that you'll ever sing it. Go for it. What did the Buddha do? What did the Bodhisattvas do? What did his wife Yasodhara do? His son Rahula do? What did Carl Jung do? What are you doing, Alan Clements, to live the best life that you can live? And yes, we all know these bodies, fraught with 10 gazillion trillion neurons, blood vessels, oxygenated with toxins and DNA and horror, totalitarianism over there that I blame. I am the Stalin of my own fear. All of these things together in this so-called oneness, the temple of oneness here. But is oneness a positive experience? I don't want to be one with evil. So deep, deep inquiry is really where I'm not going to compromise. I want to keep growing, and I want to come to the end of this sharing today just wanting to acquaint myself. I wanted to just basically say hello to you. Thank you for being on the island. If you're on the island and you haven't registered, it's offered freely as my own dana and my own gift to you. Please come out. I want to meet you, whether it be for the day or for 2 or for 3. We're going to sit in silence. We're going to write. We're going to talk. There's lots of places here where you can check out and simply sit in the forest. There'll be backjacks that are being brought up. There'll be some cushions that are here. Bring what you need. Obviously, bring your drink, bring your food, bring your notebooks, bring your heart, bring your innocence, bring your virginity, bring your naturalness, bring absolutely the absence of the history of your need to be right. And let's, in that open-hearted place, consecrate something that could be done that we could say at the end of a minute is brand new. Let's beam a light of Dhamma radiance from this island to all sectors of dimensions and samsaras. Let's give hope to the people of the world who need hope. Let's do something special for the unborn. Let me close. I made a determination yesterday before I left my sacred temple in Santa Monica. I'm stepping out. It's an uncertain future. I'm craving home. I'm having to be in my own body as temple. But there's a part of me that just simply wants to wake up and feel that I'm in the sacred security of a rested embrace by the divine mother of support. I'm thinking and feeling into where that will be and with whom and when, and yet the yearning for that is arising more firmly. I'm desiring more, which is a great source of healing. I'm loving it. But when I left the temple yesterday in Santa Monica, I made the determination, Alan, you're going to be meeting a lot of new people today that you'll never see again. Airports are filled, the highways, the driver, the Uber. And I said, Alan, live as if when you get through that flight and you're in the car with your beloved friend Summer. It's about an 8-hour journey all together, door to door. I said, walk your talk. You talk about meditation as a full-bodied, all-sense experience, all times. How many times have you talked about all times, all contexts, all 3 streams of thought, speech, and action, all postures? True orchids, touching them, eating, tasting, drinking. Do what you can from the time you leave your temple door till the time you arrive in the temple door of your friend's automobile. Bring your highest Dhamma. Don't brace to get through. And I made an aditant, which we call in Pali language, a determination to be in the adventure of presence, embodied within consciousness, and to parlay, if you will, to make my paramis the priority of my presence. Parami, for those of you who may need to be reminded or perhaps you do not know, one of my favorite Pali Buddhist words that describes states of excellence, colors of consciousness. They can be unique to you, not just ones found within the traditional Buddhist tradition. Patience, determination, focus. Call it awareness, but layers of awareness that filter out distortions and illuminate realities. Layers of awareness infused with jnana or wisdom, panya, that filter out distortions and illuminate realities and their characteristics, that give the light of freedom to the source of the beam, consciousness itself. Paramis function to liberate consciousness of distortions and illuminate the freedom of being both free of in that moment distortions and the luminosity of refracting reality, as my teacher said, U Pandita would say so often, refracting reality rightly, living in peaceful unification or harmony with the senses and with conscience and with the artistry of applied or experiential dignity, the paramis, authenticity, integrity, calm. So often yesterday, I had the thought of wanting to meditate. Training myself over the year and more, meditate, going deeper, experientially relaxing the breathing, feel, notice, hear, smell, taste, think, feel, relax, embody a recognition of the stature inherent in realizing that you are now meditating rather than thinking of meditating, thinking of doing your Dharma, thinking of arriving, Alan, thinking of what they'll have for lunch, thinking of what your place will be like when you arrive on Maui, thinking of where you'll find a home, thinking of the future, thinking of the future, thinking of the future. I'm not saying set them aside. I'm saying occupy existence where it is, as it is, and enhance it through the wisdom filter of the paramis that filter out distortions, that compromise and subjugate your passion, your beauty, your peace, your ease, and illuminate the influences that harmonize, unify, and liberate. Talk more about them on this weekend or next weekend. Closing. When I got to people along the journey yesterday, I didn't just stop yesterday, it's continuing, but I'm now back in chosen solitude. Well, let me put it this way. There's one passage attributed to the Buddha, very obscure, very hard to find, in one commentary. I'll trace it and tell you which one it is so you can reference it yourself. But I read it in Sri Lanka, and the Buddha was said to have been asked by someone, could you say that there's one defining attitude that you carried with you during your entire journey as a bodhisattva or a bodhisatta? A bodhisattva, a being who's made a commitment to the full development of the paramis that when matured, they say, theoretically, this room is filled with Buddhas, that Buddhahood is achieved. What was there? Was there a singular attitude that you could say defined the experience made real of your conscience to fulfill the aspiration, the cetana, the determination to be a bodhisattva, to endure anything in order to refine paramis, to achieve Buddhahood, and therefore renounce all forms of greed, anger, and delusion, and achieve the highest radiance of freedom. Okay? And it said, the Buddha was said to have said, I made each person I encountered on the journey of lifetimes my ultimate object of reverence. I made each person I met along the journey of awakening, the journey of freedom, my ultimate object of reverence. Now, I looked deeper into the commentarial comments about the word reverence. High Dhamma reverence. Existence is my curriculum. People are the medium of organic preciousness for me to evolve the best qualities of consciousness. And in the interaction of shared space, the Bodhisattva becomes a Buddha. You and I become awake through interrelatedness. We cannot do it alone. Life is an interrelated phenomena with a never-ending set of conditions that we engage or we deny, we fear or we embrace or we transform. The Bodhisattva is a dedication to relational awakening. Paramis are what develop in the Bodhisattva. The paramis are the 10 qualities of excellence, the 10 primary qualities of consciousness, the colors of consciousness, that are the transformational qualities of engaging complexity and engaging intimacy. It's the tantrification of inner beingness through the encounter with other. I made each encounter with other the ultimate experience of transformational possibility, the ultimate place of reverence. I think there's something so cool about that. Rather than meditating at 6 tonight for an hour, living in high reverential presence, a dedication to the vocation of your holiness. I think that's the Dalai Lama when he was a young boy. His Holiness, the Dalai Lama. You, the holiness, Marcia. You, the holiness, Summer. You, the holiness, Martina. You, the holiness, Brina. You, the holiness, Bella. You, the holiness, Mitch. You, the holiness, Sophie. You, the holiness, Janine. Why not live in the most radical, innovative, inventing of your own originality on the authenticity stage, of your own burning down your art night after night with your own regard for the transformational awakening of your reverential presence called your own holiness? Why do we revere images and artistry of people and call them the holiness alone, when in fact we are all embryonic, all DNA, all beings of the same holiness, doing all that we can to make good on the promise, right, of our own commitment to Dhamma awakening, Dharma awakening. Our own evolution of the 10 paramis, my own beautification of consciousness, my own bhavana. I made each person I met my ultimate object of reverence. I gave it a go yesterday. Showered the airline personnel with, those of you who know me, I love the nuance of intimate relatedness and curiosity and questioning. It's not ever that overt. And I have to say, I had some of the most tender, more interesting moments that I've had in a year in these relationships with perfect strangers. At curbside, at the ticket counter, at customer service, the Q code, talking to the lady there about how many people give her blowback for having to turn them away because they haven't filled out the forms to go to Hawaii properly, or that they got a positive result of their COVID test and they can't get on the flight and they've got to go quarantine, and their family are going, oh God, we were on our way to Maui and you got the COVID. And now what? And it's like, each person we meet. Let us never lose the intimacy. How easy it is to judge and ridicule and expect that people in service, in customers, strangers, that we're entitled to impose our conflict upon them, our judgment upon them, and just wait till we get to that sacred place, the monastery, the workshop, the gathering, in order to become our higher self again. The quest today, and I'll end here, is to take these teachings and to make them so personal. How to nurture, like we do with an artist. How do you nurture an artist's creative intelligence? It takes time to develop musical intelligence, lyrical intelligence, poetic intelligence, sexual intelligence, dharma intelligence, spiritual intelligence, emotional intelligence, creative intelligence, impromptu, improvisational, spontaneity of intelligences. What does it mean to really, really, really be yourself, at the same time define those values that inform your paramis? Why do you do what you do in the way that you do it? And can you do it with greater ease of heart and wealth of spirit and finesse and aesthetic and cool, and make this life journey fraught with landmines and genocides and rapes and births and weddings and divorces and kisses and tendernesses and massages and orgasms and poems and novels and movies? And there is freedom, and there is democracy, there's universal human rights, there is ethical courage. Make it a journey of truly awakening to our highest potentials. This room, these Tankas, these Buddhas, these Taras, these Bodhisattvas, these saints and priests and goddesses and sculptures and pieces of art and symbols and bowls and carpets, and the men and the women and the boys who made them from all over the world. Let's step out of our own framing, of our own tanka. Let's live out in the reverential field of our own Rumi, our own chosen poetry. It may encourage you to encourage me to encourage our friends and families. This is our time, right? This is our time to step out, to adventure up. We each have our struggles. It's obvious. I have my own. It's an edge. There are edges. I don't want to die. I don't want to suffer any more than she or he wants to die or suffer. And yes, I've played on the ground of depression so many times. I think of my own mindful euthanasia so much more frequently than I'm daring to even speak of. It's always that dual voices in there of facing death and the courage to keep living. But in the middle of it all, that confluence of where I meet you and me, and where I meet me and me, where I love and die and fear and breathe and touch, that reverence is what I'm trying to get to here. The reverence of inner beingness with shared space, with you and me. What will I do in that space today to make it as holy and as beautiful and as elegant and as transformational and as poetic? And yes, hear me out, please. Make choices that respect your integrity, Alan. Make choices that respect your boundaries. If you don't want that type of dialogue in your near vicinity, you can, in your own elegant way, your own awkward way, say no. You don't eat food because you're supposed to eat that food. You don't drink sodas because you're supposed to drink that soda. Boundaries, embraces, musicality, the chorus, the verses, the lyrics, the timing, the tone, the the meaning, the purpose, the definition. May I encourage you to encourage me. Define and play in the artistry of your own sexual, emotional, romantic, transformational, bodhisattvic aesthetics. Each of us are uniquely different. Fingerprints. The fingerprint is my Buddha statue. It's my Avalokiteshvara. It's my own bodhisattva. I mean by the fingerprint, like a snowflake. No two of them are alike. No two human psyches, no two beings are alike. And yes, the Dhamma is a discernible set of conditions within uniqueness called formations in interrelatedness. And within that, nobody can do it the way you can. Each of us must do it uniquely for ourselves, by ourselves, with the support of others. But hey, play in the high musicality of your Dhamma aesthetics. Don't follow Buddhism. Don't follow Christ. Don't follow Jesus. Don't follow Allah. Don't follow Rumi. Don't follow anyone. Don't follow me, right? The uniqueness. No two of us will kiss alike. No two of us, I've said so many times, will ever make love alike. Don't mimic that. Non-mimicry, reverential intimacy, spontaneity, curiosity, firmly, intimately grounded, embodied in the paramis, in your Dhamma, in high reverence to interaction with other, and to give them your very best because you want to be your very best. So, I like her. I kept her right here. Coming out. I'm coming out. I'm out of Los Angeles. I'm out of Santa Monica. I'm out of my temple. I'm now back in the world in a semi-temple. But I am going to step out and live and to create my desire, which is the reverential creation with a few people of a sacred semi-monastic environment where I can do everything that I want to do creatively. I wrote them all down on the plane. And commune with those few special people and radicalize shared space, because I love the notion of the Bodhisattva. I love the notion of the Arhat and the Buddha, my icons of heart, because at the very essence of it, the beginning, the middle, and the end, whatever the end may be, is about freedom, about spontaneity, about uniqueness, about transformation, about love and goodness, and pure, this is the word here, pure mystical wonderment. I want to believe in the unborn, the uncreated. I want to play in the world of imaginary futures. I want a world that's radically different than this one. And you know, I'm going to fight for it. I hope you'll join me. From my heart to yours, hope to see you tomorrow, 9:30 from Hawaii. And please come out to the 3-day gathering. If you're on the island or on the islands and you wish to come, please contact the organizer, Karen Jeffries. She'll handle everything. Bring your meal, bring your liquid, and bathe in this sanctuary of love. And if you cannot come to the island, wherever you are in the world, please. It's the first time that I've done this in almost 2 years, a virtual global gathering to talk about the crisis that we're in and the liberation that we're in. And so please join me July 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. 2 sessions a day, 10 to 12 and 1 to 3 Hawaii time. It'll be broadcast live here on Facebook. And I hope you have a beautiful day wherever you may be in the world. So from my heart to yours, thank you.